Hello, Dr. Davies. Tell us about RSCI 532.
Gordon, it's so good to see you again. As you remember from our last conversation talking about our 531, our drug discovery course, lots of times my students ask, what's the difference between drug discovery and drug development? And it's not a hard, fast line between the two, but there's so much work that we do in the processes of discovering the drug and then moving it forward into humans that we split these courses into two programs. And so as shown in the first slide that you're presenting right now, it gives you a timeline, and you can see our pre-discovery, our drug discovery facets that go up to from therapeutic concept up to about lead finding and lead optimization. And that really is pretty much the end of drug discovery. And then what happens is we start to optimize the molecule. So we start thinking about the safety components of the molecule, the class of molecules that we're going to move forward. We're starting to think about the formulation, how we're going to move it into humans. Is there going to be challenges with solubilization, with metabolism, with bioavailability? And then we start talking about IND-enabling studies in the drug development program. And we give a small introduction talking about phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 clinical trials as the molecule is tested in humans, first in humans in phase 1 and then going forward to phase 2 and phase 3. But the majority of drug development is focused on really optimizing the molecule for its first testing in humans.
Okay.
And really when the general public thinks about drug discovery, drug development, they really think it's a pretty straightforward process. You go to the pharmacist, you get your drug, you don't think about it. It sounds like a simple process, but there's over 2,000, 3,000 companies throughout the world doing drug discovery. There's over 10,000 R&D projects ongoing all the time, and yet every year there's 20 to 30 at best products that actually get approved for the market. And many of those are follow-ons or drugs that are just a second or third iteration of a particular molecule. So we've got a long ways to go. Drug development talks about a lot of the challenges in developing drugs, the safety challenges, the challenges of treating the human condition.
Okay.
And the main point that we talk about when we think about drug development is it's the optimization and development of molecules in a regulated environment. And so now we're starting, it doesn't matter if we're testing the molecule in animal studies, they're done under what we talk about GLP, good laboratory practices, or if we're starting to manufacture the molecule and using GMP, good manufacturing practices. So these are topics that are covered in this 532. What's the difference between a GLP and GMP, and why do we have to use GLP and GMP for moving the molecules forward?
Yes.
At the end of the day, I always want to remind my students, all drugs are toxic, all drugs are poison. And so it's really the weighing the risk-benefit ratio, and FDA or other regulatory bodies will look at the risk-benefit ratio. What's the disease state? What are the drugs available for the disease state? What's out there for the general public right now? And that determines, to some extent, how tolerable the regulatory bodies are in taking risk for new molecules, because all molecules can be dangerous, versus the benefit. If it's a cancer that has no treatment, or it's a disease for pediatric patients that have no current cures, they're going to be a bit more lenient and accept more risk because there's just nothing out there. And so we talk about this in this course. Many of our speakers come in and from different facets of the drug development arena, but always talking about risk-benefit ratios, safety, efficacy of the molecules. So what I'm showing this next slide that's coming up is, and this is really from the academic model, but it also works in big pharma, is what's key about a drug development program, because it does take from 10 to 15 years from the idea of a concept of a molecule all the way out to marketing, and over $1 billion, from $1 to $2 billion, actually, Gordon, up to $2 billion to get a drug
It's a billion with a B.
A billion with a B, that's right, billion with a B. And so you don't want to deviate. You have to stay on track, and there's so many different facets that one has to think about. And so what I'm showing in this slide is really kind of a railroad track model of the different facets, different turns that one can take in thinking about the processes of drug development, drug discovery. And one thing that I want to bring to attention, and in fact what we introduce in this course is how do you manage complex projects, and we introduce the program program project management, and we talk a bit about that. In fact, we have a new course that's being launched, RSC 603, that I'll talk about another day, that's completely focused on program project management. The key is if you get off track, someone says, well, what's the difference? Well, let me give you an example. Lipitor, which was a blockbuster for Pfizer, made in its heyday $12 to $13 billion per year. So just think, every month that drug, every extra month you added to that drug's patent life was $1 billion pure profit to Pfizer. So do you think 6 months extra by doing the right thing would be important? You don't know if your drug is going to be a blockbuster, but if it turns out to be another Lipitor at $12 billion a year, if you add 6 months of patent life to your company is going to really appreciate that extra $6 billion. And so we always say focused on where we're going, how we're going to get there, and what's the end point. Finally, we talk a little bit about FDA. Even though we have complete courses that fully focus on FDA and what they do in the regulatory bodies, we remind the students how the FDA interacts. We talk about how do they enforce their rulings. We talk about guidances. So the students start to have understanding of the FDA, not as an adversarial body, but one that you have to communicate with, you have to be working with, you have to be talking with the individuals at the FDA as you're developing your molecule. You don't wait until your molecule is ready to be launched into humans and then first talk to FDA. We try to teach the students that you have to start a dialogue. It has to be a positive dialogue. So that the FDA is there to help you. Believe it or not, the FDA actually wants to help you because they want to get those drugs, those valuable drugs that we need for those human conditions out, but they want them to be safe. Not only efficacious, but they have to be safe. And so we talk a bit about this in our class. How does the FDA interact? And then finally, some individuals say, well, does FDA actually have any authority? And what I'm showing here is just one of many, many occurrences where the FDA really can go in with marshals, guns drawn, and they can lock down a facility. So yes, they do have authority, and if they make a ruling that decides that you are out of bounds of what the company is supposed to be doing, they can come in and lock your facility, and you're out of business until they unlock those doors. So we remind the students FDA is there to help develop the molecules, but they also have authority to ensure that the molecule is being developed properly. So I hope that today's brief video helped give a sense of the overall course. As I said, that first slide showing the timeline really talks. The students can actually see the different facets we're looking at, and I've found the students to really enjoy this course. They've been very successful, and then this moves them on into other courses in regulatory.
Sure. So who takes this course? Who is this course designed for?
Again, as in the 531, this is individuals that are really interested in understanding the nature of the molecule, understanding a biologic versus a small molecule. They might have some background in chemistry, biology, biochemistry. They have a little sense of how chemical structures work, and they want to be on the forefront of taking a project, overseeing a project. Maybe they want to be a program project manager. Maybe they want to be involved in the animal testing, the animal safety. Maybe they want to be in IND enabling studies. Maybe they want to oversee the clinical trials. But mostly these are students that have come in that have a background in the sciences, that they don't want to necessarily be bench scientists, but they want to oversee how the science is conducted to move the molecule forward from conception in the animal models to what we call the IND enabling studies, all the way out to NCEs, new chemical entities, and then post-marketing, surveillance, etc.
Okay. And what is the structure of the class? How is the teaching?
As with all of our classes, we always have deliverables. We have individual projects and group projects, as well as, of course, a written exam. We have a group presentation in this course, and then interestingly, we have a workshop. We have a mock company workshop in this particular course, where the students can see a pseudo company all the way from deciding to go after a molecule to moving it forward into clinical trials, and all the different mistakes that can be made and all the ridiculous decisions that are made, and they're made every day. It doesn't matter if they're in small companies or large companies. The challenges are so severe that we have to have a much better educated drug discovery, drug discoverer, drug developer in the pipeline to help move that molecule in the pipeline. And so they start to understand deliverables, they understand milestones, they start working in groups so they can interact with groups when they go into their choice of careers, etc. So I think it's a really good course. The students have really enjoyed it in the past. We've been running this program for this particular course for about 10 years now, so we've optimized it quite a bit. We've refined it so it stays current with current industry practices, and I think it's really a valuable course for the students that are thinking about drug discovery, drug development.
Well, very good. That sounds very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Gordon. I look forward to the next talk on our upcoming RSC 603 that we'll be talking about in program project management. And see you soon.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.